Welcome to MacroCode. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. So today we are going to proceed with our video on employees management system. So on our previous videos, we've created employees records where you can actually add a new employee. We've added leave applications where you can add leave types. You can also add leave applications. You can create a new leave, and you can also approve a leave application. So you can see these are the leave applications that has been approved. And you can also reject a leave application. So you can see this is a leave application that has been rejected. Then we also have a system administration where on our video, we added users. So you can add a new user within the application. And you can also add system roles. So you can see we have some roles here, the role number and the role name. Then we have designations. You can add designations, departments. We have banks. We also have countries. You can add countries. And we have towns and cities. Then system codes. Then we have our system code details. So what I want us to do today is when you create a new user, assuming we want to have a new user who is actually tied to a certain role. So what I want us to do is, how do we tie users to roles and have the user tied to a role so that whenever we will be logging into the application, we will have tied our user to a certain role. So you can see I can be able to add a user. So what I want us to do today is to actually tie users to roles. So there are some modifications that you are going to do today, which are very important for those who are actually willing to learn how you work with the roles and even tie them to users. And this will actually build up so that we'll be able to have our application managed by roles and permissions. So what I want to do today is to assign roles to users. So one thing that I want us to do is I want us to come to our application. Then everywhere we have on our application, so I want us to have a model. So I want us to create a model called application user. So here I want us to create an application. So we'll say application user. So this application user, we are going to build. So when you open our database under the ASP.NET users, you'll see that there are some columns that maybe we might need to add and we don't have them. For example, you see we have the username, normalized username, email, normalized email, and we have phone number. But for my case, I want us to have, for users, I want us to have first name, middle name, last name. We can have email address. We have the email address. We can have some other things in case you need a user. But what I want us to add are those fields with an associated role ID. So if I just come here to my application user, so I'll just do public string. Then because we have some records, I'm going to have that as null. Then I'll say first name. Then I'm going to do get. Then I'll do middle name. So I'll do middle name. So that is our user middle name. Then I'll also do last name. Another thing that I want us to have is I want us also to capture when we created the users. So here I'll do created on. So this is date time. So I'll just do date time. Then I can also do created by. So this is date time. So we want to track the person who created that user. So I'll just do here string. So this will be string. And then I'll say created by ID. So after that, I can also add, so this is an employees management. So what I want us to add, so we can have here full name. So I'll say full name for that employee. So full name will be equals to, so to get the full name, I'll do that. Then I'll do here that way. Then I can say, so we interpolate here. Then this is our first name. then I'll do that. Then I can also do middle name. Then I can do, let me zoom this so that it's a bit clear. Then I can do last name. So that will be my full name for the user. So another thing that I can add is we can have here login date. So whenever you just log in, we update. So I'll say login date. So that is the login date of that user. And also, if there is any modifications that can be made to these user details, I also want to track. So I can say modified by and modified on. So if you modify anything, these will be updated. Then what we can also do is we can also add something here. We say password changed on. So in case we want to track when was the user when the user changed the password, so you can say password changed on, and this is date time. Then another thing that we can add is assuming we want users to give us national IDs. So I'll also add here national ID. So I'll do here int. So that is our IDs are always in int, so it depends, but I can actually do here string. So let me just do string. Then I'll do here national ID. So these are some of the details that we want to capture. But now what I also want us to do is to ensure that for every user we are tying the user to a role. So I'll add something here called here I'll call it identity role. Let me just have it as a string. Then I'll call it role ID. So that role ID, I'll want it to be a foreign key to our roles where we are storing our roles. You remember the roles that we created, which are actually being stored under ASP.NET roles. So if I select that, you'll see I have these roles: finance manager, system administrator, super. So that is what we did on our previous video. So if you want to follow up, check on our previous video to get updated. So here I'll just do identity role. Then I'll do here role. So if we do that, we'll now get our role ID. So whenever we'll be creating a user, we'll be expecting to get a role tied to that user. So after we do that, then we need to ensure that this application user is actually part of, so it is inheriting some details from identity user. So we have just extended these details to add it to our application, that is the users table. But for this to work, we need to ensure that everywhere we have used identity user, we need to change it to application user. So for this to work, we are going first to our program.cs. Then we will change identity user to application user. So everywhere we have identity user, and the most part where we have that is actually under identity pages. So if you go to identity pages, you will note that there are a lot of pages here that is actually using identity user. So I'm going to check. So there we go. So, and most of them are actually under the CS file. So I'm going to do that. Check, you see here, you need to replace everywhere you have it. So what I'm going to do, let me just copy that. Then I'm going to find. So everywhere we have it, I want it to be replaced by that. And it should match. So if I just find, so it should be under current project. So I should replace all. I think it's not. Let me just let me just find. in our project, not getting. So in the current project, so let me just replace it. So you see here, so if we don't do this, our application will not, you'll get a lot of errors. So here you'll see we have everywhere we have the user manager should actually use our application user. So ensure you change that so that you don't get into problems. So I'm changing mine. For registration, everywhere we have identity user, we change that to application user. So if you want to now add more details about the user, that is how you go about it. So here you see, I'll have to change everywhere that we have our identity user. So I'm going to change it. So there we go. Going to change it here. Then I have my login with 2-factor. I have to use identity user. So then under login page, we are also going to use application user. So I'm going to change that. Stay anywhere, yes, here. Then under lockout page, don't have anything. Forgot password. Confirmation, you don't have anything. Forgot password, here we should have. I'm going to have that. So I'm changing that. Then under external login, we have some here. Then we also have it here. So if you change that, so I'm going to change confirmation. There we have it. So I just want to show you how that works because you need to actually change them. So go changing all. You can also replace if you want. So I'm doing that. Then for the access denied, you don't have anything. So under manage accounts also, you need to change. So I'll go inside manage accounts and I also update. So if you don't update these, whenever you access any of these pages, you'll get an error. So because we'll be using our identity. So there we go. Going to do that. Change also this one. So change this one. So I don't want to replace so that we get some issues with our application. So let me just replace them. Then for the personal data, there we go. Then manage nav pages, there is go, okay. And so I need to change these. And you see here we are actually using user manager and sign-in manager. Generate recovery codes, we also have that. And external logins, I also have that. So, and the same thing will also apply when we are dealing with roles. So I'll show you what we also do when we are extending roles. So here we are extending our default ASP.NET users table. See here, we need to have this as application user. Then here, email, I also have my application user. Here my application user. There we go. We have an error there. We have to update, download personal data. We'll update those. So if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing, like our video, and comment down below. So I'm going to extend that, update that. And I'm also going to add here personal data here, update it, we update. Then under change password, I also have it here, do it here, So change this and this. Then I can also check on my view imports. It's okay. There it's okay. Manage. So here also I'll have to change this to use my. So here I'll have to import using models so that it works. Then under layout, I'll also have to change it. So there everything is okay. So if we go to view imports as well here, we are okay. View start, we are okay. Error, we are okay. Then remember on our controller, there is a controller that we created for adding users. So on our controller for users, we should be able to now, instead of using identity user, we should use application user. So you should change that. So I'm going to change everywhere we have our, you see here, we should actually use our application user. I'll just change that here to use application user. There we go. So that should be fine. Let me check under create. We are using application user. Then where else? So let's check on our application DB context if there is anything we've referenced there. On our application DB context, we don't have anything. So on our application DB context, we can also do some modifications if we want. But for now, what I want us to do is I want us to add migration. First, let's rebuild our project and see if there is any error that has come up. So our application should build, and if there is something that we need to fix, we should fix it. So let's just check. There we go. Yes, there is one error. So you see there is an error. So let's just go to convert. Yes, here we should use application user. Where else? So let's just check on the error list and index. Yes, here we should use application user. Where else? We have confirm email. We should also use application user here. So what I want us to change before adding migrations, come to our migrations. So in identity DB context here, I can actually do application user. So application user, then I'll do comma identity. So here I'll just do identity. I can do that. Then yes, I can do that. Then after doing that, I can actually do tools, package manager console. I can clear that. Then I can say add migration, then say update user details. So if I press that, our columns names for the users should be updated. So if you come to our table name ASP.NET users, you see we have some few names, username, this one. So if our migration file is okay, is generated, then we do update database. We should actually get those additional columns. So if you see, we are altering our ASP.NET users and adding some of the columns. So let me just go here and do update database. So if we do that and everything works well, our table column should be added. So let's just wait and see. So if you're new to this channel and you like the video, subscribe. So there you go. You see our files our commands are running, and you can see everything is okay. So if I go to my database and ASP.NET user tables and execute, I'll still find my username, email, normalized email, password hash, security. But now I have, yes, I'm not seeing them because on this select, I've only selected some columns. So I'm going to do another select. So I'll say select top 1000, and you should be able to see that now my additional columns are part of my fields. You see, created by, created on, first name. So I've actually extended my ASP.NET users table. So I should now be able to save a user with these additional details. So once that is done, remember we were creating users. And for us to create a user, so let me just launch our application. And we should be fine to launch our application without any issues. So that is how you extend a users table. So for those who are asking, so I'll just log in. So if I click sign in, I should be able to sign into the application without errors. Then if I go to ASP.NET users, I mean the system users table, I should be able to get my users without any issue. You see, it is still retrieving the data. But now when I click add new user, you see we have email, phone number, password, and the username. But our table, we've added more details. So what I want us to do, go back to our users controller. Then you will see that we are using application user. But our user view model doesn't have those additional details. So I'm going to application user. Then I want us to copy these details here. Then up to the, so we'll just copy there. Then go back to our controller, ASP.NET users controller. Then under user views model. So I'm going, I think we actually had those information. So I can add this. I'll just add this, then we can remove. You see, it is actually checking that we have those. Then we can actually include role ID here. So I'll just say string, then I can do role ID. So if I do role ID, then we can now come to our, I can remove this created by because we don't need them. So this created by, I can remove it. Then I can go back to our users. And go back to our users under views. Then we should have a folder called users create. Then I want to add now those new fields. So I'll just come here. Then I'll say here first name. So I'm now adding the additional user fields. First name. I do that. Can also add middle name. Can do middle name. So I'll just do middle name. Then I'll just do here last name. So that is our last name. What other thing can we save? We say first name, last name. We can say what national ID. So we can have national ID here. So I'll just do national ID. National ID. So this should be here. I'll just paste it here. Then I hope we have the national ID here. So let me just check. National ID, yes, we have it. Now, what I want us to check is, what I want us to do is when we go to our controller now, users controller, we were doing manual mapping. So let's just do, we manually map, but we'll be exploring something called AutoMapper. So you can actually consider watching our videos to get to understand how you use AutoMapper instead of actually doing this manual mapping. So you can assume having more of the fields, how will you, will take a lot of time doing this. So I'll just do that. Then you can also do, here, national ID. And it's part of the national ID. Then I can say created by and created on. So here I'll say created on. I can put today. I'll just do date time. Then I can say now. So then I can do here created by. So for now I'll just choose here. I'll put here a string called macro code, but I'll be linking this to the person who is logged in. So after that, what other thing can we do? Password change on and the role ID. So the role ID, I now want us to map our users to the roles. So to do that, on our create, so I want us to borrow the list of roles. So we should be able to select the roles. So go back to leave applications. So I want us to borrow this. So I'll just borrow that. Let me just copy. I want us to have our view data that we are going to use under users. So under create, when we just launch create, we should have our view data for role ID. Role ID. Then we are selecting from ASP.NET. So we'll say here roles. So we'll get the roles, and under roles, we want to get in ASP.NET roles, we have the role name and the role ID. You see, we have the ID and the name. So I'm going to take the ID, but what we want to display is the name. Then we need to have these as a. So I'm also going to paste it here down. So I'll just have it here. Then the next thing that I want us to do is we should have our selection. So I'm just going to borrow from our create employees, because we actually have a select options. Yes, like this one. So then I want us to go back to, you see, we've actually binded items to view back. Then we do that. So the same thing I want us to do under users. We have, after keying in all the details, the next thing is you choose the user roles. So I'll just do that, and I say this is a role ID. So this should be part of the role ID. And here we do viewback.role ID. Then here we'll select. So after that, if you go back to our user view model, you should see our role ID. But I want us to do something here. Instead of displaying that, you can say display. We can add something here, display name. Then we can do this. Then you can say here, email address. So that is what we want to display in our form. Then you can say here first name. You can also display here middle name. You can also display here last name. So this is last name. And also here you can do phone number. So here you'll do phone number. Then I'll also do away with that. Then I can also do password. Then I can do address, but we didn't add address to our table. I think it's something we can modify. Then we can have here username. So we'll say username. Then we can have here national ID. You can say national. So this is national ID. Then you can do here, you can say here user role. So after doing that, that means when we are creating our roles under ASP.NET users, we should be able to tie now our role. So here we miss something. We need to say now role ID here dot role ID is actually part of ASP.NET. So we'll say user dot role ID. So if we do that, we should be able to add now our user. So I'm going to, then here we can actually say if we do that, we should select. So I just do that model, then role ID. So that will actually give me the role that has been selected. So if I launch our app now, let's just launch our app and see if you are going to now add the additional details to the user table that we have here. So these additional details that we have here, and you can actually tie the users to the roles. So we have the role ID here. So let's just launch our app. So if you're watching this video and you're new to this channel, consider subscribing, like our video, and comment down below. So our application is launching. So I'm going to log in, then I'll do that. Then I'll just sign in. Then on signing in, I should be able to see my system users without any errors. So if I click new user, I'm expecting to see the additional columns. You see the first name, middle name, last name, national ID, email address, phone number, username, and password. The same thing you should actually see now our roles. You see these roles here is what we selected and is what we added on our ASP.NET roles, and it is part of the ASP.NET tables. You see we have the roles here. So what I want us to do now is to create a user. So I'm going to say macro code. So macro, that is our first name. You say code, then we say subscribe. So that is our, then you can have our ID number. I'm going to have an email address, and I'll say here 4. Then I'll have my phone number. I'll have my username. I can do that. Then I can have my password. So then I'll select that this is super admin. So I'm going to have my breakpoint so that you're able to see all those details. So I'll just click there. Then if I now click register user, I should get the breakpoint here. You see it is already there. And if I hover on the user, I should see all the details that we've added. So you see created by is what I had coded. So that is macro code. Created on, it is the date, email confirm, first name, you see it is macro code, full name is now macro code, subscribe, then ID is that, last name is that, then we have our national ID, and we have all these others. Then we'll see the role ID. Yeah, so we have something wrong with our role ID. So you see the role ID is actually null, and we want to ensure that we have actually mapped it wrongly. You see, instead of model.role ID. So I'm going to stop our app so that we map it correctly. Here should be model.role ID. So let's just launch again. So we will be going to proceed with this video until we have a very complete system, so that we should be able to have the whole application running based on your comments. So we actually implementing this application based on your comments, guys. So it is actually best that you suggest some of the things that you'll want to see in this application. So, and you can also consider buying us coffee. We'll also appreciate even if you buy as a hot one. So I'll just add a user. So I'll do macro code, then I'll say your code, and our last name is what you should do, subscribe. Then this is our ID. I'll just put in some numbers. Then our phone number here, that is our email address. Then we have our phone number. Then I'll do username. Then I'll also do password. Then I'll choose my role. So that is the super administrator. Then if I click save, I should go back to our user. Then if I do now user, I see all the details. So we were missing the role ID. So you see the role ID, it has given us the ID of that role. So this is what it has given us. So it is actually these IDs here. So this is what we'll be getting. So if we do that and we just step into, our user should be saved. You see succeeded, true. And if we proceed, it will take us back to the users. And this is the user that we've created. You see this macro code 4. So if we go to the database and select ASP.NET users, we should see some data for the additional columns that we add. You see this user is now created by macro code, created on this time. The first name is this one, last name. We've added the middle name, we've added the national ID, and the user now has a role. You see, this is the role. So to go back to our application, you will see we have the user serial number, email address, username, and the user phone number. So I want us to add something. On our list of users, I want us to add the full name for that user, because we now have the names. So I'm going to go here, then I'll just do full name. So I'll do full name. So here I'll do full name. Let me just check. Yes, you see on our identity user, we are using identity user, and here we should actually use application user. So that means if we use our application user here, we should go back to our controller and the users, and instead of just retrieving the users as it is here, I'll just do variable user details. Then I'll just do that. I'll say here new. Then I'll do that. So if we do that, I'll now have to say here user.id. I assign it users dot. So this one I'll just say, so I want to get this list of users. Let me just confirm if this is giving us, yeah, I think this is okay. So what I'll do, I don't have to do this, sorry guys. So if I do that, this actually users is giving us application user list. So we should be fine whenever we just update our application user here. So we should just do that. Then here we should do full name, and we should be okay. So if we do full name, then at the top here as well, we should do full name. Is it after the email or before? It's before. So I'll just do here full name. Then I'll also add something else. I can also add ID number. So I'll add ID number. Then when I come to users here, I'll also add ID number. So national, so this is national ID number. Then what I want us also to display is the role of that user. So I'll just add something here. Then I'll say user role. So I'll say user role. Then if we go here, I'll add the table data for that user. So I'll say here role. So I'll want us to display the name. So I'll do role.name. And for us to get that role, this role.name, we need to go to our application, that is users controller. Then here we do .include. Then we do that. Then we say X. We do that. So this should be, this should be this way. Yes, then we say X. So this will be that way. Then I'll just do that way. Then I say dot. Then we say role. So it will include that, and we should be good. So if I launch our app, we should now have the full name, and we should be able to see the roles for that, for every user that we have within our application. So the intention of this video today was just to extend the user table, assign a user to a role. So we'll be able to see also how do we extend the roles table. And now we work with how do we see all the users that has roles, and how do we assign those roles, and how do we use it. So if we log in, I'm going to users as well. And you can see I now have the user serial number. You see the full name. So the full name, this is the person we added, user macro code subscribe, the ID number, and you see we have the role name, which is super administrator, and we have all these. So I can actually remove the username. What other thing can I remove? I can remove the user serial number so that we have our table a bit clear. So I'm going to our users, then I'm going to remove this ID. I can also remove the normalized user, and I can come back to our table headers. I removed that. I can also remove the username because they look alike. Then if I just apply changes, I should now get our table with the new changes. So instead of also saying user phone number, I can just say phone number. Here I can also say email, and here I can say role, and here is ID number. Then here I can say full name. So if I apply the changes, I should have my table with the new details. So you see we are missing some data for our full name for other users because we did not add them. And you see for the new users now that we will be creating, they will be having these details. So let's add another user. So I'll just add a macro code. I say that is the name. Subscribe guys. The ID, provide that is it. Here I'll say 5. Then I'll also provide the phone number. I'll also provide the username, password. Then I'll choose this is ICT manager. So if I register, let me remove the breakpoint and we continue. I should get the user. You see, is now macro code subscribe, the ID, this is super administrator, and we have the ICT manager and all that. So I think for today, I'm going to leave it at that point. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you have not subscribed, like our video and share. Bye.